So I can tell you that this election is about three things. It's about trust, it's about leadership, and it's about experience. Who do you trust to fight the opiate epidemic that we have? Who do you trust to make sure Common Core is not in our classrooms? And who has the leadership to cut taxes, health insurance, regulations, and energy costs? I can tell you that I'm the only candidate in this race that has said that 30% of the power that comes into this state should stay right here in New Hampshire. We have to stop being a donor state. We have to stop sending power to everywhere else in New England and not keeping it here. Because what's happening? Look around. Look at your energy rates over the last 5 years. I had somebody call me a few months ago actually, and asked me to take a look at two bills. One bill from 2016 and another bill from 2010. Their total usage of the kilowatts was exactly the same. However, the bill in 2016 was $50 a month higher. So that tells you that there's a problem in this state, and we can talk about how do we motivate businesses to come to New Hampshire. Well, there are three things that they look at before they move here. One is, can we find employees to do the work? Two, what's the energy cost? And three, what are the health insurance costs? Well, I can tell you that as we talk to employers out there about finding employees for the positions that they're looking for, I was at 6 Hour probably 3 weeks ago. They have 150 positions that are open. They've had them for 3 years. And they're looking for manufacturing folks. The problem is that when you talk to high school students about manufacturing, they think it's their grandfather's old, dirty, stinky mill. And that's not something that they're interested in. But I can tell you, as you go to 6 Hour and you walk through their plant, it looks like they're manufacturing medical equipment. So I told them what we were doing in Manchester. I told them that we had opened up the technical high school to a full 4-year high school, so that students can go there, become a plumber, become an engineer, become an electrician, a beautician, culinary arts, and be ready for the workforce. It's the only one in the state of New Hampshire. It was a regional technical high school. We need to do that with the other 9 regional technical high schools in this state, because not everybody's going to college. And we have to make sure that folks are ready for the workforce. So we've done it in the city of Manchester. We need to do it in the state of New Hampshire. I've told you how I would attempt to reduce energy costs. When it comes to health insurance, the state of New Hampshire has 28,000 employees. They don't have an opt-out plan, so that if an employee wants to go on to their spouse's health insurance, that they can get paid $4,000 in opt-out of the state plan. We did that in the city of Manchester, and we saved close to $1 million in the first year. We've instituted a health savings account so that there's personal responsibility when it comes to health care. We've done that, and we've reduced our health care costs and kept that line item flat for the last 2 years. University of New Hampshire has a seat for the governor on their board. I can tell you that I will sit in that seat to see what's going on at the university, because I'm an alumni. I went to the University of New Hampshire, and it didn't cost what it costs today to go to UNH. So we have to find ways to reduce college costs. And it comes down to who has the leadership to do that. And when it comes down to experience, there's only one person in this race on either side of the aisle that has the business, the legislative, and the executive experience. So I'm ready on day one. I'm prepared to go to work, roll up my sleeves. The first one at work, as City Hall employees will tell you, and the last one will leave. I plan on doing the same thing when I become governor in January. On the opiate situation, on day one when I'm governor, I will declare this as a state of emergency. Because until we get everybody at the table to have this conversation, we aren't going to beat this battle. I say that if anybody gets caught dealing fentanyl, they should be arrested for attempted murder. If somebody dies from that fentanyl that they've dealt, they should be put away without the possibility of parole. We need to move from the district courts to the superior courts and felony first, because pushers are getting arrested on a Tuesday and they're back out on the street dealing on Thursday. And that's just wrong. We aren't going to arrest our way out of this, but we must make sure that we have everything in our power to fight this awful epidemic. We have to make sure it comes down to prevention, education, recovery, and certainly the ability for the law enforcement community to be out there and fight this battle. So as I go through the state, the discussion is no different than what it is right here in Goffstown, or in Manchester, or in Colebrook. People are talking about the same things. They're talking about jobs. They're talking about how do we reduce our energy costs, and what are we doing for education. So all the things that I've talked about in our plans are out there, and they're available for you to take a look at. As I said, I'm going to try and keep this as short as possible because you're all looking like you're enjoying the great work that they've done here on the maze, and I can tell you it's
some of us a little too much.
a little too much. That's all right, not a problem. Just take another chair, extend your legs, take a little nap, eat a little more in a little bit, so you're fine. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to open it up to some questions, because the best part of campaigning is when I look you straight in the eye and ask you a question. As I had a woman today ask me a question, and said, that's why I'm going to vote for you. I may not agree with you, but you look me straight in the eye and you give me an answer. I may not agree with it, but I know where you stand, and you're not going to flip-flop on it. So let me open it up to questions. Any questions? Yes.
Right now, the state of New Hampshire has the highest income tax, highest over tax. What do you
Well, I can tell you that certainly the Senate brought it down this year, reduced the cost of the DET and the BPT, and what we've seen is a surplus coming into the state. So those are good things, and I think we have to continue to reduce those taxes, because when you do reduce taxes, you give businesses an opportunity to grow. Government doesn't create jobs. Companies create jobs. Another question, yes.
Thank you, Mayor. I was just wondering if you like tulips or roses. Oh, I'm sorry, this is not the Democrat Party. Softball question. So I'll throw you a good question.
I'm sure you will. I know you will, John.
I'm a huge constitutional carry state rep. I've sponsored that bill many times to get it to the...
You get it to my desk and I'll sign it.
Thank you, sir. That's
How's
all I
that?
need to hear.
Pretty simple answer, isn't it?
That is.
Anybody else with a question? Yes.
Back in 2011, the legislature passed a lower budget. It cut state spending by 10-11%, $1 billion, saving taxpayers $1 billion. As governor, would you support or even put forward a budget that actually spends less than the current budget, particularly if you had a Republican majority of both the Senate and the House?
Well, I can tell you that when I'm governor, we're going to try and do a little bit of a different budget process. There are 4 bites at the apple when you talk about a budget. Governor presents his budget, the House takes it, they present their budget, the Senate takes it, they present their budget, and then all of a sudden we're all sitting in the committee of conference trying to come up with some solution to the problem. Well, I'm going to suggest that we all sit down at the table on day one and look at a budget that makes sense for the citizens of this great state, so that we have something a lot sooner and a lot quicker, and we're not waiting until June to see if we're going to be out in time or not. Look, I'm the mayor of Manchester. I don't have to tell you. There's a tax cap there. Okay? I'm sorry? I can only tell you it's been overridden, but it's not by this mayor. The budget that I present is within the tax cap. So I appreciate what you're saying, but I can tell you the 2 budgets that I've presented in the city of Manchester have been tax cuts out of the 7 that we have. Yes, some of them have been overridden. I can't agree with you more. I vetoed a couple of them that had an override in them. So we need to make sure we live within our means. Take a look at a budget, because we spend an awful lot of time. I was on the Finance Committee when I was in the Senate. We spend a lot of time on very small departments that don't have a lot of influence on what we're doing. We need to tackle the larger departments where the most spending is, so that we can get answers. That's what's most important. And I can tell you that I will meet with the Speaker of the House and the Senate President long before the committee of conference, so that we can get a budget a lot sooner. Question, yes, sir. Thank you for your service, by the way.
Mr. Mayor, there's been some discussion about Medicare expansion. You mentioned something called
Sure, that's a great question. As I talked to you about health insurance and what do we have to do, we have to get personal responsibility, we have to get employees included in that. And when you get people involved with personal responsibility and they shop their health insurance, it's got to be the only industry that we have that doesn't have a price list when you're going to buy something. So you don't know whether somebody's charging you $7,000 for a colonoscopy or $1,700. What we've done in the city of Manchester, we've told employees that if you shop it and you go to the low-cost provider, we'll send you a check. In other states, what they've done for Medicaid expansion is that they've not only sent the employees or the participants a check, but they've sent the doctors a check to the low-cost providing doctors. So we need to get everybody at the table and find personal responsibility on what we're doing with Medicaid expansion. We can't just continue to give things that there is no personal responsibility in what they're doing. So I agree. Yes, sir.
an issue that's very near and dear to myself, being a federal employee for the last 36 years, 30 years with the Postal Service, is right to work. As a federal employee, I was given the option of whether or not I had to join the union. I chose to join because it was for my benefit. My wife, however, works for the state, and she has no choice. She is a teacher at the state prison, and she would pay 75% of her union dues, whether she was a member or not. What's your position on that?
I support right to work.
Right.
Yeah.
Any other questions? As you can see, my answers are pretty quick and pretty decisive. I don't waffle on things.
That's the way I like it.
And Mayor,
Yes.
thank you for taking questions.
My pleasure. Anybody else with a question? Somebody must have a real hard one.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yes.
actually. Will you issue a complete pardon for Ward Bird, who was improperly charged with brandishing a weapon on his own property against an intruder when the property was clearly posted no trespassing?
Well, that's certainly a discussion we can have.
He didn't even point it out.
That's a discussion we can have. Yes.
You're not going to give an answer.
No, I guess I'm not going to give an answer to your hypothetical question. Yes.
Planned Parenthood.
Yes.
No.
Funding it with taxpayer dollars. Where do you stand on that?
Well, let's talk about the Planned Parenthood vote, because I would never fund Planned Parenthood with taxpayers' dollars. However, the bigger issue in this discussion isn't about the taxpayers' dollars. It's about a $550,000 retroactive agreement that was paying wages that were already paid in a line item of the budget that was in a deficit. Now I ask all of you folks, when you're sitting at home doing your kitchen, at your kitchen table doing a budget, you don't have enough money, and somebody says, I think we ought to go to dinner tonight, what's the reaction? You don't have the money, you don't go. Well, this money was paid out of a line item in the budget that was in a deficit. Somebody that's looking to be a leader of this great state in an executive position, that's just wrong. Forget about the Planned Parenthood funding. It's about what you see in that vote. And what I see is somebody that's not qualified to lead this state. Any other questions? Yes.
What are your plans for ending prohibition?
I didn't know that we had liquor prohibition in place.
I didn't say liquor prohibition. I said substance prohibition.
I didn't hear the substance. I apologize, sir.
It was implied.
Well,
It wasn't restricted to liquor.
Okay, well, let's understand. We have a fentanyl epidemic right now that people are dying from. And I can tell you that I don't support reducing sentences on marijuana or even legalizing marijuana, because we have an epidemic right now that we have to use all the tools to fight. And that's... Yeah, they're working in Manchester. I don't know if you're paying attention to the city, but we opened up safe stations in Manchester in May 4th. And we've had over 400 people come to the fire stations to look for recovery assistance. And the most incredible thing about that statistic is 70% of them are still in recovery. Usually the recovery community tells you that it's 25 to 28%. So we have something that's working in Manchester. Is it the silver bullet? Absolutely not. But I think it's a program that we can look at throughout the state, because Hooks is now looking at it, and so's Auburn. And they're looking to institute the same thing and join us in Manchester. Thank you, everybody, for your opportunity. Thanks for the questions. I look for your vote on Tuesday. Thank you very much.
Crop tape.